Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
This is the Networking RX. Welcome. I'm Frank Agin, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections, and I am going to host the program today. Early on, when I started in what I'll call networking, I shouldn't say when I started in networking. We've all network our whole lives. We all build relationships and use those relationships to benefit us, whether we're sharing notes in junior high or when I say notes, hey, I missed class, can you give me your notes? Even passing notes, I guess. Do you like me? Check yes or no. So we've always networked, but when I really kind of got out into the professional world, when I left corporate America, where work was pretty much handed to me, I just came in and did the work. Obviously, I had relationships with the people in there, but I wasn't driving the bottom line. But when I was out in private practice and first got into what is now AmSpirit Business Connections, someone said to me, networking, it's not a microwave, it's a crock pot. It's not a microwave, it's a crock pot. And for those of you who don't know your way around the kitchen, I will quickly explain. A microwave is certainly development of the space age, but they learned that you can use microwaves to heat up cooking. They used to be called radar ranges. But essentially, you put something in a microwave, and it can be cooked in a matter of a few minutes. Bag of popcorn, 3 minutes. Heat up a hot dog, 30 seconds or whatever. And that's a microwave. And that's you can put a meal in the microwave, and you can set it for 2 minutes, and you're ready to eat in 2 minutes. Whereas with a crock pot, you'll put food in a crock pot, and you'll set it and let it go all day, and it doesn't get terribly hot, but it just gets consistently hot, and that consistency over time will cook whatever's in the crock pot. You can put a chicken in a crock pot and let it sit there all day, and at the end of the day you'll have a cooked chicken, or I guess you could put a chicken in a microwave. I've never tried that, but you could cook it in a whole lot faster in a microwave. And so that's the analogy between, the analogy of networking. It's a crock pot. It's not a microwave. It's not quickly walk in the room, get everything you need and be gone. It's walk into the room, make some relationships, walk back into that room another time, make relationships. And when I'm saying room, I mean that generally. Interacting with people, a little here, a little there, and over time you're developing things that will come back to you. And that's networking. It takes time. It's a crock pot. You have to be patient. You have to put your ingredients in. You have to tend to it, stir it from time to time. But it's not going to be ready in a couple minutes. You're not going to have the benefits in a couple minutes. You have got to wait, and you've got to certainly be patient with respect to it. And so patience is a huge part of professional networking, of professional relationships, of building these relationships. You just have to be patient. You're going to be doing things for your network, and then you have to kind of wait, and wait, and wait. And sometimes things don't come back to you from your network. Sometimes they don't ever come back. But sometimes it's days, it's weeks, it might be years. And I know that can trip people up. People don't, we like our crock pots, or we like our microwaves. We like that instant gratification. And that's great when it comes to food. Lord knows I go home and I want to eat, and there's leftovers, or there's something that can be easily cooked in the microwave. I'm going to do it. If it's something where I'm planning out meals and making chili or something like that, I'll use the crock pot. But at any rate, when it comes to this patience, I always tell people there are two patience, two ways of being patient. One is the passive sort of patience, and then there's an active patience. And I'm an advocate for what I'll call active patience, and I'll kind of go through those with a couple examples, if you will. Now, when it comes to being passively patient, there really isn't many examples I can use. Passively patient is you doing something and they're just waiting, doing nothing. It's passive. You just you're sitting and you're waiting. And that's, I think, what really trips people up when it comes to building relationships and building their network, because they feel like you feel like you have no control. You have no control over the situation. You're just waiting, and I'm not an advocate of being passively patient. I'm an advocate of being patient, but I'm not an advocate of being passive about it. And so what I advocate more is kind of an active approach to being patient. So, what I mean by that is I might reach out to somebody and say, hey, I might give them information about being on their podcast or invite them to be on my podcast. And for me, that's kind of a way of building relationships, getting to know people, because it's hard to interview somebody and not really kind of get at what they're about. You get their book, you can read about them or read about their thoughts, certainly get background on them, go on LinkedIn. It's a great way to get to know people, and in that process, they get to know you. And so I might reach out to somebody and say, I'd love to have you on my podcast, and you send them a link to schedule, and you don't hear anything. Now, a lot of times, being passive is you just let it go and just kind of hope that something happens. And that, again, that's a tough thing because it's kind of out of your control. But what I like to do is be a little more active about it, but not be pushy about it. Pushy is, hey, when are you going to do that? When are you going to do it? But there's nothing wrong with following up with somebody and just saying, hey, did you get the link that I sent you? And be nice about it. Did you get the link that I sent you? And I think that's a legitimate way of checking in with people, because it's entirely possible that it slips by people. And I've had people respond saying, oh my gosh, yes, I saw it. It got put in the wrong folder, or it went into my spam folder, or whatever. Thanks for letting me know. Or people might respond, hey, you know what? Thanks for reminding me. I got busy with other things. Or, hey, thanks for reminding me. That's on my list, but I need to get some other things planned out before I can commit to getting on your podcast. It probably won't be till next week. So that's certainly a way of actively being patient. I'm being patient. I'm not being pushy, but I'm just checking in with them. Another way of doing this, and this is kind of a tip for people who are out there in sales. I was there was a discussion on Facebook about, I give somebody a proposal and I don't hear back. What are some things that I can be doing? And again, you don't want to be pushy because you don't know what's happening on the other end. I mean, to you, giving somebody a proposal is the most important thing in your world, or can be the most important thing in your world. One of the most important things, depending upon the size of the proposal. You may have lots out. It might be the only one you have out. You might be looking for a job and you're just waiting to hear back. You need to recognize that on the other end of that, it might not be the most important thing to them. Probably isn't. They have a million other little fires they're tending to, and so you just need to be patient. But again, you can be actively patient, and one of the things, again, you can follow up with them and just say, hey, listen, did you get my resume? Did you get my proposal? Did you get the link to schedule podcast? I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want, maybe it went into a spam folder, or you didn't see it, or it got lost. And most people are appreciative of that. I'm appreciative of somebody following up with me. It's not harassment. There's nothing wrong with demonstrating interest. I wouldn't push somebody and say I need to know by a certain deadline. I don't appreciate those things. I assume other people don't appreciate those things as well. But some other things that you can do to be actively patient is beyond just following up on that link. Let's say you do a proposal for somebody you want to hear back, following up with them with other information. Hey, here's something else to add to the proposal. Or, hey, here's an article I came across that I thought you might be of interest. It might be an article that's related to their business, but completely unrelated to your proposal. Completely unrelated to your proposal that you found for them and you thought would be of interest. Again, you're doing the things to kind of keep yourself top of mind. So any of those little things that you can do to try and just keep yourself on the radar, to remind them, hey, this is out there. And I've used this over the years, and people, will respond, hey, thanks for the article. I know I still owe you a response on the other thing, and whatever that other thing is. It might be a proposal. It might be a link to get on my podcast. It can be a whole bunch of stuff, but it's just kind of another way of keeping yourself top of mind. Hey, there's an event coming up. I wanted to make you aware of it. Are you going to be at it? Maybe we can talk at that event. Or here's a fundraiser. Are you going to this? Just rather than just passively sitting and waiting for something to happen, you can kind of take some action, actively just kind of stay top of mind. Years ago, I had my first internship when I was in law school. I worked for a business consultant, and he was trying to hire somebody, and he had 4 people apply. And he told the receptionist, this is all pre-email, he told the receptionist, says, listen, I don't want to talk to any of those people. He interviewed them all in one day. He says, I don't want to talk to anybody. If they call, I don't want to talk to them, so don't put them through. But I want you to keep track of how many times they call over the course of this next week. I want to see who really wants this job. And that was a big determining factor for him and who he hired. The people who wanted it, the people who stayed on his radar, who were eager about it. So again, you don't need to be a pest, but you can be actively patient as you wait for all the wonderful things you put in that crock pot to kind of bubble up into benefits for you. To wrap up, remember, AmSpirit Business Connections, we have a unique franchise opportunity that involves helping small business professionals become more successful through a referral-based networking program. It only involves a couple hours in the morning, a few mornings a week, and would be a great franchise for an attorney, accountant, realtor, business coach, or consultant to add on to what they're already doing and get better networked at the same time. Why just be a renter when you can own the building? Why just be in a networking group when you can own the networking group? So if you or someone you know would like to learn more, please contact me using the email at the end of the podcast or the one we include in the show notes.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connections. All rights reserved.